Hello and welcome to day 2 of Boundaries Basic Training. I'm so excited to dive in today. Today's going to be really good. Yesterday was great, but it was an energy shift. Today, we are going to give you the actual tools and tips specifically around personality types and boundaries, and then types of boundaries. If you are just tuning in and this is your first video in this series, I will place the link below so you can go back and listen to day 1 of Boundaries Basic Training. If you're just joining me for the first time here on YouTube, hello and welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you can be notified when I upload new videos. My name is Cami and I am an intuitive life coach for people pleasers and perfectionists, and I help them on the path to inner peace. So today, I want to recap the inner peace pathway, which I introduced yesterday. This is something that I teach inside of my course called Anxiety Detox. The link to that course is right here in the description, and I also have it up on the screen. You can check it out by going to www.anxiety- which is the little line, detox.com. Again, anxiety-detox.com. And this course was created out of my own personal pain. I was in a relationship for 9 years. It was a codependent, narcissist relationship where I put his needs above my own. And then finally, after about 6 years, about 5 or 6 years, the pain got so much and I realized I couldn't keep doing this. So I went and hired a relationship coach. And then I finally left that relationship. Then I had to figure out how to be in relationships. So I went to a retreat in Bali. I learned all there is about values, vision, all the things I teach inside the course. And now I'm happily in a beautiful married relationship, right? But that didn't mean that it didn't come without pain coming from my prior experience with relationships. So if this is you're having challenges around boundaries and relationships, I want you to know you're not alone. As I talked about yesterday, this is evolutionarily, psychologically, something that's been built into us is this desire to please other people, to stay harmonious in community. It is a survival mechanism, right? And what we're learning now as adults is there was probably someone in your life that you grew up around, your early formative years, parents, teachers, adults in your life that you had to please. And so we probably have this story that I'm not lovable unless I'm performing, or I'm not lovable unless I'm doing things the right way. I'm winning. I'm getting first place. So just notice what's coming up for you to gain some awareness around boundaries as we go into this training today. But I want to recap the inner peace pathway so you can really get an understanding of what this is, especially for those who are finding this video the first time. So the inner peace pathway is simple. It's 4 steps, and it's what I teach my students inside of the Anxiety Detox course. And the course itself has lifetime access. So what this means is you can work through these steps again and again, over and over again, as you're reaching new levels of personal development. So step 1 is energetically shift. We have to energetically shift because what happens with anxiety is we're stuck. We're stuck in fight or flight. We have frozen thoughts and we are stuck in anxiety, not being able to do anything. So the first step we do is we use energy modalities, physical modalities, and emotional modalities to shift your energy. Super simple. It can happen in 90 seconds. It doesn't have to take a long time. Then we move into step number 2, which is take aligned action. In this step, this is when you're actually doing something out in the world. So you're setting an actual boundary with yourself, with a coworker, with your boss, with a family member, and you're setting these structures and boundaries in place. And this comes from having a solid understanding of your vision, your values, your identity, and specific how-tos, right? Like, how do I say this? If this happens, what do I do? And knowing what thoughts are underlying your inability to take action, right? So we do all of that in step number 2. Step number 3 is my favorite step. I'm pretty sure it's my favorite step, is celebrate and validate yourself. So we actually do that with the body, right? Like, yes, I did it. I set a boundary. It was super uncomfortable, but I know I'm moving forward to my highest good. And we celebrate within the community of the Anxiety Detox community. We have a special group and community that's not on Facebook, that's very private, where we can share exactly what's coming up. And as we're starting to set these boundaries, really celebrate that. And then step number 4. Step number 4 is called Master Your Energy. And in this step, we take the work a little bit deeper. So this means revisiting things from your past that you may have been too afraid to look at until now, releasing it, letting go, doing some forgiveness work, diving deeper into some energetic practices that may uplift you and support you, things such as breath work, yoga, meditation. And this step is what enables you to handle anything, anyone, anything, any relationship, as you continue to become more well-rounded and grounded in your own personality. That means as triggers present themselves, as opportunities present themselves to go back into the pattern of people pleasing, you will not get stuck there once you've mastered these 4 steps. So that is the broad overview of the Inner Peace Pathway. That is something that I made super simple and available for all of my students inside of Anxiety Detox. And if you're watching this live with me right now, August 9th, 2022, you can jump on into the course. We have a special price going on for the first 25 people. So if you're watching this and you're really curious on how to get high-level coaching plus community plus lifetime access so that you can release anxiety and stop worrying what other people think about you so you can set the boundaries, then head over to anxiety-detox.com. All right. I'm just going to double check the comments, see if we have anything coming in the comments. If you are watching the replay, play along. Comment in the comments if you're watching the replay. And if you're here live with me, thank you. I see you and I honor you. All right, let's dive into this. We're going to be here for about 30 to 45 minutes today. We want to keep it quick, short, and tangible. If you are a person who likes to take notes, this would be a good time to grab a notebook. Okay, this would be a good time to grab a notebook because I'm going to break it down into the 4 personality types. This is really cool, but I don't want you to use this against yourself, okay? What I don't like about the way people approach personality types is they see it as set in stone. This is who I am. This is my weakness, and I can't overcome it. First of all, the way we generalize personalities is just a generalization to help us understand our tendencies, right? Because everyone is truly a unique snowflake, but we do have commonalities of a human experience. So what I don't want you to do is to take this overly personal or overly set in stone, okay? We're using this as a tool to notice these are the tendencies of these personality types. These are the strengths, and these are the opportunities or the challenges of this personality type. And what I love about this is every single one of these 4 personality types are all amazing, are all worthy, are all deserving of love. Not one of them is better than the other. And we need all 4 to function as a society. So we want to honor each and every one, no matter where you fall on the spectrum. So I am going to start by introducing the 4 colors. This is coming from the personality test called The Color Code. And you can actually head over to the website right now and take a free assessment. But I'm pretty sure if you stick with me right here, and as I describe these, you're going to know exactly what color you are based on these descriptions. And I'm just going to read you the colors and then we'll go through the colors. So the 4 colors are red, blue, yellow, and white. And I really want to focus on the first 2, red and blue, because these are the 2 where I think they really end up butting heads. And typically there's a parent and a family member or a sibling or a aunt, uncle, or parent-child relationship that has a red-blue dynamic. And I'm speaking from experience here. I'm going to share vulnerably about my experience and my personality and how that showed up for me. So let's talk about the red personality. These personality types we're always diving into. What are they motivated by? Okay, what are their core motivations? And the red personality type is motivated by power. Okay, so the positives of this personality type is they're take charge, they're leaders, they want to win, right? They have that competitive edge, like we'll do anything to get it done. They also have some challenges and opportunities, which would be maybe being overly direct, not taking time to think about people's feelings, kind of pushing ahead and pushing through to win at all costs. And they can rub some other personality types the wrong way, which is especially challenging if you're meant to be in a leadership role, but you don't really have good people skills just because they haven't been developed yet. Okay, so that's the red personality type. The second one is the blue personality type. The blue personality type is motivated by intimacy. So an example of this is they really want things to be fair. They're like the team players. They're the one who are going to show up. They're going to take the garbage out. They're going to cook for people. They're going to make sure everyone's okay. They're going to stay late after work, right? But then on the flip side, their challenges and opportunities are they have an idea that everything should be fair for everyone, and they have judgments around other personalities, right? On they should be doing things like I do, they should be. And that creates a conflict. And then what happens with this personality type is they're typically the nurturer, the giver, right? So they're in the helping professions. They're like nurses and social workers, but they have a tendency to burn out and to overgive and to feel like their value is tied up in giving. All right. And if you're feeling like this is you and you're the blue personality type, this is typically the personality type that I work with the most. So givers, nurturers, they come to me to do this work, to figure out how to set boundaries, because in their mind, setting boundaries is not kind. It is not fair. But I'm going to reframe this for you today so you can learn exactly how setting boundaries really is loving and kind. All right. The third personality type is the yellow. The yellow is motivated by fun. They just want to have fun all the time, right? So the great thing about them is they're very people oriented, but they're the ones who are going to have a big community of people. And they're like, oh yes, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And there's flitting from person to person. They're really personable. They make you feel liked, right? And they're the life of the party, right? So they're the ones you want to go around when you want to have a good time. And they're really great for breaking the ice when things are awkward in social environments. They're really great in fields of marketing and things like that, where they're going out marketing and sales to meet people. But their challenge and opportunity is they get distracted easily. So they're like squirrel, right? And they don't always have the gumption, right? Or the desire to follow through on anything that's not fun. So they may be challenging to finish through and complete a project. They may overcommit themselves to where they say, yeah, I'm going to go to this party and this party and this party. I want to see everybody. And they realize like, I actually can't see everybody even though I want to. So we'll talk about boundaries with them. And then the last personality type is the white personality type. And this type is motivated by peace. So really for them, they want to just do their work, do their job, give back in the world, do the right thing, but they kind of want to avoid conversations that are going to bring up anything, right? They don't want to have these conversations. So they're the ones that are kind of in the background, oftentimes kind of like being quiet to themselves. They don't really want to get involved in these conversations because to them, it's not honoring their desire for having peace. Okay, so the challenge and opportunity here is sometimes this personality may just shy off from something and not want to have the conversation because it feels too uncomfortable. So we'll talk about how all of these align. Now, based on this, I'm curious what personality type you think you have the highest percentage of. And remember, this is not black and white. You may have kind of some traits of 2 or 3 of them. But what's so valuable about this information is this is truly an example of phenotypic plasticity. This is something that I studied as a nerd that I am with a degree in biology. I studied this and did a report on phenotypic plasticity when I was in high school. I think it was in 10th grade. And what this is we have we may be born with an innate personality or an innate tendency. But as we develop over time, we can start to build characteristics of the other personality types. So what we really want to focus on is how can I take all of these personalities, right, and start to harness the strengths of each of them. So maybe the white wants to bring on a little bit more of the red, right, where the red doesn't have a problem saying what they want to say. Maybe the blue wants to take on a little bit more of the yellow, where it's okay to have friendships that are maybe not close friendships, right? Because sometimes maybe the blue is judgmental of certain friend circles whenever there's actually different layers of friend circles, right? So those are just some examples. So what we want to think about is how can we integrate all 4 colors and start to understand the core motivations of the other personalities so that we can be in harmonious relationships. Now, if you know me at all, and if you've coached with me at all, I'm curious, what personality type do you think I am? And I will just go ahead and tell you. I'm a red personality type, the one that's motivated by power, success, achievement, winning, right? All those intense things. And throughout my life, this has made me a really bad leader. I've always been in management positions since I've been 19 years old. I've always been in charge because I could do the job, but that didn't mean that I could lead people well. It wasn't until I found this work that I realized I need to be sensitive to the needs of the blues of the world, right? And the blues are the nurturers, the givers, the ones motivated by intimacy. So I really want to focus on this intersection between the reds and the blues. Now, inside my course, we can go deep into all the personality types, but I just want to focus on these 2 days because I know you're going to get something from this. Because typically, if you're here, you're probably a blue, a nurturer, or carer, an overgiver, and you're probably dealing with a red who is aggressive, loud. They have their opinions. They don't care. They're going to just say whatever they're going to say. They're going to bulldoze over you. They are going to get their way because they're used to getting their way. And what's so interesting is I used to shame myself for being a red because kind of mean, right? Kind of mean, kind of not worrying about other people, just kind of wanting to win at all costs. But what I realize now is my ability to be assertive, my ability to step forward and be a leader and be loud and be seen is something that the clients and the students that I work with, the blues, they want more of. But they want to do it in a way that feels in alignment with them. And then for me, I've had so many beautiful blues in my life to teach me a lesson about slowing down, about connecting to the human. So I've incorporated a lot of these more intimate traits, but I had to do work on it. Okay. So what I want you to notice is the red personality types in your life that are triggering you, which is like a toxic boss, maybe a partner, maybe a family member who kind of has a tendency to bulldoze and kind of get their way and who's loud and assertive. These personality types need, require, must have boundaries. And I shared in yesterday's training about dog training. So I love dogs and I have a couple different dog breeds. I've fostered dogs. I've had a lot of dogs growing up and I was a dog trainer. So I like to think about 2 different dog breeds. My favorite dog breed is the Australian Shepherd. So amazing, gorgeous, super smart, but they're also highly sensitive, right? They're very sensitive to like sights, sounds, everything. So they have a tendency to get more fearful and afraid. So you have to be gentler when you're training that dog. Okay. So I think of the Australian Shepherd or that type of dog who's more sensitive as a blue personality type. It's nothing wrong with that at all, right? So we're not saying one is better than the other. We're just saying there's different approaches, right? And my dog, I have this black dog named Bo here. He's like that. He's got separation anxiety. He wants to be around people. He's super sensitive. So like you can't even like move quickly around him or he thinks you're going to hit him or he's like, oh, he's so scared, right? My other dog, she's got a chow mixed in with her, right? And if you've ever worked with pit bulls or bully breeds, like they're literally called bully breeds because they're headstrong, they're powerful, strong, and you have to be more consistent and firm with their discipline. So with my other dog, I have her on a leash where we use a prong collar, which, hey, I've been in positive reinforcement training my entire life, but in order to keep my dog safe and other dogs safe, this dog needs a prong collar. And what that means is she needs something not hurting her, but like poking into her neck that says like, listen, I'm serious. Pay attention. You got to be over here. We can't do that. You can't eat this little dog, right? So I want you to notice the differences in personalities and the way that we react to them. This is why I want you to know blues, okay? You in the world who are blues, you're dealing with reds. Your job for your own well-being is to set the boundary to the reds in your life who are going to continue to overstep, who are going to, because that's their actual personality. And they've never seen this video. They've probably never done any personal development or training. And it's not your job to train them or to tell them what their personality is. Your job is to continue to reinforce the boundary. But from my own perspective, I've been challenged as a leader by my team because I was a manager at one time and my team was very sensitive and caring. And in the leadership team, I had brave blues that came to me and gave me feedback that was not comfortable to hear. but that basically said, like, you're being too much of a red right now. You're too focused on the goal. You're not thinking about the people, and people don't want to work with you because you're too intense, too serious, too focused. It's not fun here. So I was alienating myself from the entire team because of my actions of being a red. So how beautiful was it that a courageous blue who said, I love you, we want to be on your team, but this is really hard because of these actions. Here's some things to think about. And I luckily at that point was open enough to have that conversation and to learn and to change it, to continue to grow, right? Because my tendency is always going to be red. So I'm cultivating that energy of blue. Okay. Now, here's where the reds and the blues really headbutt. Both of you think the other one is wrong. Okay. And I actually had this growing up in my family dynamic. There is a blue in my family, which I didn't realize. And I didn't realize I was a red until I've done this work. And this blue in my family would always judge me, right? Like I was doing the wrong thing and like I was too loud, like too much of everything, right? So I have this story that I'm too much. And then on the flip side, so there was a lot of judgment coming from this blue personality type in my family. And there was always like this desire for deeper connection, which I couldn't always facilitate as a young person growing up, right? So like I just did my own thing. And so there was a headbutting thing happening. And when we both realized our dynamic, we were both able to say, oh, I'm always going to have like a subtle trigger about you being red and you being in charge and you not thinking about doing all these things that I would do, right? Like let's just give some examples on like everything a blue would do. So the blue would like let's say you're having a dinner party. The blue would like do the beautiful RSVPs and like, oh, let's do a theme. And oh my gosh, like let's make sure Sally and Josie sit beside each other because they both like they work in the same kind of industry and that will be really good for them. And like, let's make sure that like there's gluten-free and let's make sure everybody has everything that they need. And then I'm going to greet you at the door and I'm going to make all the food. Like you don't even need to bring anything. It's fine. I'll do everything. Right. And they're like overly accommodating. That's kind of how the blue is. The red we'll look at it from a different perspective. Like, how can we be efficient? How can I make this as least amount of work for me as possible? Right. So the red might say, everybody bring a potluck, just bring whatever you want. They may be a little more disorganized with it. They may not be thinking about like, oh, somebody's vegan. It may never even cross their mind. So just notice the different personality types coming from a blue perspective. It's really easy to judge the reds because the reds are not as thoughtful as you. But what if you're in their life as a reflection and an opportunity to remind them of what this thoughtfulness could be? Now, this isn't for everyone. This isn't for every dynamic, especially if you're in a red-blue toxic dynamic, right? Sometimes you just have to limit your exposure to them. But you may begin to start to notice what are the things that trigger me about them that are never going to change, right? Like they're just loud. They just come in and they're loud. Like it's never going to change. They come in and they're trying to like talk and gossip about other people. I don't like that, right? So these are some of the things that you can start to notice. Like this is the list of qualities. These are the list of experiences that we've had together where I really don't like the way they do this thing and I'm having a judgment about it. Okay. So again, the first step is always, always, always back to personal responsibility. Where do you need to actually just accept that that's how they are? They're never going to change. And how can you love them from a distance? Okay. Now, for example, let's say this person always comes into your home and they're loud and you have a sleeping baby. You get to set the boundary around that, right? Like they're never going to change from being loud. But what that means is they don't get to come over to the house because they're not going to respect the boundary, right? So do you see how this is not about changing them and getting them to respect you and change their personality? It's more so of you limiting the interactions, and we're going to get into the 3 types of boundaries. It's more so of you realizing I'm going to accept who they are, and then I'm going to set boundaries so that I can feel okay with who they are. And a lot of times that's from a distance, right? And maybe there begins to be opportunities to have conversations with people, but this is going to be different for everyone. And it may take you a longer time to figure it out, right? Depending on the relationship, which is why inside of the course of Anxiety Detox, I really want you to think about this work, right? This growth taking 6 months. You have lifetime access to the course. You can take as long as you want. You're going to redo it over and over again, but 6 months is a really good framework to start setting the intention now of, this is a person who triggers me. I can tell they have that red personality type. I'm pretty sure I'm a blue. I'm pretty sure I'm really judging them. So we want to see if we can back off of the judgment a little bit and just start to get curious, right? Start to get curious and clear. What are the things that trigger me about them? What thoughts do I have about them? And even just starting with the thought, this is their personality. This is the way they are. And I still want to figure out a way to have a relationship with them, right? Because they're my family, or I have to because they're my coworker, or whatever that is. Because here's what won't work. You trying to avoid this conversation, or avoid setting the boundaries, or quitting your job because there's somebody toxic there. Because guess what? Guess how the universe works. You'll go to your next job and you'll be stuck in that same pattern with the same people pleasing, with the same type of personality until you figure it out. So let's dive in and figure it out now, today. And if you want to deepen this work, come on inside the course and we'll keep digging. But I want you to start shifting into, okay, let me own my personality, which is most of you probably a blue. Let me own the fact that I have a tendency towards judging others. So interesting, right? Because you love everyone. You want things to be fair for everyone. Yet in reality, nothing can actually ever be fair for everyone. It's just, it's life, right? Like you may have heard, like, life's not fair. It's not fair. So how can we start to accept life's not fair? And I have a tendency to overjudge. And this overjudgment is causing me anxiety and pain. It's causing me to fight against what's actually happening here. So we start with that personal responsibility, look at the self-judgment, or look at the judgment of others. And then we could start to move into, okay, what would make this better for me, right? What would make this better for me? Starting to release some judgment. But if I just thought of this person differently, and I just thought, wow, they do have the company's best interest at heart. They do want to bring forth good sales numbers, or they do want to win, or they do want to be the best in the market. That's something that's valuable for the company, right? So you can start to notice there are good traits about their personality, but then you can go, but here's what the thing is. The way they communicate with me is just too direct. It's like they come in the office and they're just, let's get things done. Let's do it. And you're feeling underappreciated, undervalued, because they're just like barking orders at you all day is what it feels like. So that is something that's valid, right? To say like, hey, and maybe this is a conversation you take to HR. Maybe you don't take it directly to that person. But the first thing is to get clear on what it is specifically that needs to change. And it may just be a simple, hey, and I'm just making this completely up, but my coach actually had this happen. Okay. She had this happen in her business. And she's a freaking life coach. But she had this happen in her business. She hired on a bunch of people, and obviously she wants to serve other people. That's what she does as a life coach. She hired on an entire team, and somebody was brave enough to go to her and say, hey, everyone who just got hired is really struggling, and we don't like the company culture, and it's very hard for us. She had the courage to say, and I'm not the only one that feels this way, right? That's the blue personality type stepping up into their power and protecting others and nurturing others, right? Because she's speaking up for the team. And luckily, my coach, as a CEO and a visionary, had the ability to humble herself, because she's also a red personality type, a go-getter. But she had the wherewithal to humble herself and say, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I meant. And I kid you not, as a red personality type, most of us, I'm speaking in generalities here, obviously. Most of us don't have the intention of like, I want to step on people to get to the top. Now, some do, but most of us are just unaware of thinking about people's feelings because we're so focused on the outcome. We're so focused on the goal. We want to get it done. We don't want to have pleasantries. We don't want to have small talk. We feel like that's slowing us down. So even understanding that's where we're coming from, maybe you could have some compassion, and maybe that would help with the anxiety. on like, this truly isn't a bad person, but they're just misaligned in this moment and they're forgetting about their mission, right? So in that moment, this person gave feedback to my coach, and my coach dropped everything and said, this is not in alignment with what I want for our company. I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to talk to every single person. And she talked to every single person on the team and said, tell me everything, good, bad, and ugly. That's what a good leader will do. You may not have a good leader on your team, okay? But you are also here to lead yourself. If this is a work situation, you are also here to set boundaries for your own personal life and to lead your family and to teach them what boundaries are. So remember, don't let that fear hold you back. I am certain that person who spoke up to my coach was fearful, but they were in alignment with their core value of intimacy. I care about this team. I want to work at this company. I want to figure out a way to do this. And they had enough courage to speak up about it. Okay. Whew, let me know how that's landing for you. All right. Because sometimes when we talk about this stuff, we already get anxious. If you're feeling that, go back to video number 1 and do the EFT tapping exercise. All right. And I'm not intentionally leaving out the yellows and the whites, but I just really want to talk about that red and blue personality dynamic. I've been a part of it. My clients, every single client I've coached has been a part of that. And I want you to just realize it's usually someone in your family, right? It's like we're born with people that are opposite to us around us. And why? It's for us to learn and develop and grow. So dive into this with the intention of learning, development, and growth. Okay. Now, again, if you want to check out that assessment, go to thecolorcode.com. And it's completely free. I think you just need to put in your email. Woo! All right, let's shake that off. If we had any kind of anxiety or triggers coming up about our relationships, this is stuff we can work on for the next 3 weeks. Just to let you know, this is what we're doing inside the course for the month of August. It is now August. We are doing 3 more weeks of boundaries training, right? Which I'm actually calling it Boundaries Bootcamp, because we're going even deeper so you can take these specific relationships and get specific coaching. So we have your energy aligned, right? We release the anxiety. We have your energy aligned. We are in alignment with our values. We're in alignment with who we are in the world. We're taking our power back, and then we're moving in action to start having those conversations and setting those boundaries. And then we're celebrating and validating ourselves. This is what we do over and over again inside of Anxiety Detox, because this is the work. This is what we get to do, right? All right, now let's talk about the 3 types of boundaries. These are the 3 types of boundaries that are kind of obvious, but I don't know that anyone talks about them in the way that I talk about them. So we talked about yesterday what a boundary is, right? It's setting up like a line in the sand or a fence or something that says, you shall not pass. This is not appropriate. This is not in alignment with my values or what I envision for my life or how I want to be treated. Specifically, usually this is around relationships, but oftentimes it's around relationship with yourself, right? There's boundaries you need to set on yourself. There's boundaries you need to set around social media, around going to bed on time, getting up early, right? And that stuff we do inside of the course as well. But this, we're specifically talking about boundaries with people, boundaries with human beings, okay? The first boundary that's the most obvious is physical space. Like, can we get away from this person, right? Can we take care of ourselves by not going around the place where this person is, or not visiting, or not setting up times to meet? Like, sometimes, this is interesting, sometimes our friendships that we've had for the longest start to evoke this in us, where we realize we are changing and growing, and this person that we've known for 25 years is not changing and growing, and we're starting to become aware of these patterns that have been in our relationship for years without a problem, but now we have awareness of them. We're trying to change. So this might be having that friend that you used to always be around to now like backing off a little bit. Maybe you guys don't hang out every weekend, right? Maybe you're starting to have new friend groups and you're spending that physical energy around mentors and people that you look up to and role models that are living this life of inner peace and self-love that you want to live. Because who we're around, right, is the sum of the 5 people we're around the most. And to some extent, that's our family. And we can't always physically get away, which is why we're going to get into the next ones. But we do get to choose proximity. So we want to start choosing proximity around people who have learned more than we have, who have embraced setting these boundaries, who can set examples. And it's really cool when you're in friendship where you have an understanding of the person and you have a mutual understanding where maybe you plan to hang out and maybe they get really busy or they start to get low energy and they're like, you know what? I am just wrecked. This week was crazy, different than I thought it was going to be. Like, I'm not going to have the energy to hang out this weekend, but let's meet for coffee next week, right? Like having a openly communicative relationship where neither person is going to get upset by that. And then vice versa. The other person's like, cool, totally fine. I'll make other plans, right? Because on the flip side of that is you avoid it, you make yourself go, you're in bad energy. Maybe you end up getting sick or tired or something happens. Like just tell the person so they can go make other plans. It's not that big of a deal. And if that's not your reality, then we need to start setting this physical boundary where we spend less time with those types of people who are stuck in those patterns. And we start practicing it on new people, because we can be a new person in relationship with those new people. All right. So the first boundary was physical, right? Obviously making your distance, but you can't always physically get away, especially if this is like your boss or somebody you share a home with, right? So the second thing is time boundaries. How much time are you spending with this person? Are you available to take their calls and just let them bitch about life? That might be a boundary that's like immediately needs to change, like today. I'm no longer available to take these phone calls that completely physically like drain me, right? And one of the things here with phone calls or with conversations or with people that want to share things, you can set a boundary right in that moment and just say, let's talk about something else. Or this is not really a great vibe right now. Change the subject, right? So you're going to learn how to do some of these things. But think about how much time you're spending with someone, where you're spending it. This also has to do with social media. A lot of our anxieties are coming from social media. So there's a time boundary that we need to set on what we're putting into our brains. Okay. So time boundary. So we talked about physical distance. Like maybe you're not supposed to live in the same neighborhood as your in-laws. Totally fine. Maybe you're not supposed to live in the same state as them. Totally fine. And then with the time thing, maybe you're only supposed to see each other on Christmas, right? And this has to do with, these are the limitations and the boundaries that you put on when you're starting these conversations. And I have a good friend who I met up with when I went to California to see one of my clients in Venice Beach a couple months ago. And I met for coffee with a friend and she shared this with me on the in-law battle, right? Like, you're going to come here and you need to spend equal amount of time with these in-laws as these other in-laws. And like, we all need to see each other. It needs to be fair. And we need to see the kids and the grandkids. And it caused so much overwhelm for her and her husband that she's like, listen, we just decided when we come to the state or the side of the country, we're going to see one family because it's too much. It doesn't mean you don't love the other family. It just means my happiness and peace and this dynamic in the nuclear home, right? Especially when you have in-laws involved, my peace needs to be protected. And when my peace is protected, then I make decisions that allow me to interact in a way that feels really authentic. So by saying, hey, this time we're not going to see you, next time we will see you, it allows deeper connection versus what happens when we overgive, what happens when we say yes, what happens when we people please. We waste all of our time running around, trying to drive here, trying to drive there, trying to make sure everybody's happy. And we didn't enjoy our vacation at all. And now we're resentful of our family. Notice that. You're responsible for resentment. Your family is not. Remember, families, people, bosses, coworkers, they're always going to ask for whatever they can get. Why wouldn't we? Remember whenever we were little kids, when we were like toddlers, or if you have a toddler, they always ask for a toy. They always ask for candy. Why wouldn't they? Sometimes they get it. So as adults, we're the same way. We're always going to ask and try to get away with what we can because why not? Right? So again, this is what boundaries are for. This is the human experience. There's nothing wrong with the relationship inherently if you have to set boundaries. It's part of every relationship. It's part of a marriage. So it doesn't mean the relationship has gone sideways. It just means the boundaries have probably been relaxed, or the fence has blown over and blown down and the buffalo are running through wild and free. So we want to reset up and reestablish that boundary. And then number 3, you can't always get away from them with space. You can't always take time away from them if you work with them or you live with them. So the third and most important type of boundary is energetic boundaries. Okay, now this is something that I teach inside of the course, but in general, we have an aura, we have an energy around us. And don't you know, you can already go into the relationship and like go into the office with this sense of anxiety of what's going to happen. And remember, whatever we're thinking is going to create our feeling. And whatever our feeling is going to show up in our reality as our result, as our actions that we take or don't take. And that's going to show up as the circumstance or the result that's showing up in our life. So if you go into the office with anxiety thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to yell at me. How do you feel? You feel anxious. When you feel anxious, what do? You tiptoe around things. You don't say what you mean. You're kind of more passive. Maybe you make mistakes because you're nervous. And maybe that ends up resulting in your boss yells at you. So I want you to always come back to ownership of what's coming up in the relationship, right? This energetic boundary has to do with what you're thinking and how you're feeling about that person. So the way that we set up an energetic boundary is 1, through our energy, through our aura, which happens through our breath and bringing in white light and feeling the energy of general love for humanity. But the second way to set this boundary is to think a thought that feels more neutral. So if right now you're feeling anxious because they're going to flip out, they're going to be mad at me, we want to get into more of a neutral thought. Whereas, what are they going to think of me? That's going to, or maybe they're going to be disappointed, or maybe I didn't do good enough. Those thoughts are all going to lead to anxiety. We want to find a thought that feels softer and gentler than that. So, for example, I'm just going to throw a few out here. These are going to be different from everyone, but you might want to jot these down, see how they feel in your body. I do good work, right? So if you're heading to the office, I do good work. I always intend to do my best. I'm doing a good job. I believe that I'm doing a good job. Just see if that shifts anything towards like maybe a little bit of sense of pride or a little bit of sense of confidence. Like, I am doing a good job. I know it. These are all the things I've done for this company. So it builds up your level of confidence. And then maybe you add on another thought that is helpful in your relationship with this person, which is, I'm not responsible for making them happy today. Or I'm going to complete these things on my list because that's my job description. These other things are outside my scope. And I've told so-and-so numerous times, I will not have time to do this. So I'm going to do my best on my job description. And I'm again going to let them know I'm not able to do this. This is so-and-so's job. But I will communicate that. So just notice that that leads more towards a sense of apathy or certainty or detachment. Anytime that we can be in the energy of detachment, it's helpful for when we still have to be physically near someone and we spend a lot of time around them. Okay? So another thing I want to just say about the energetic boundaries, there's 3 things when you're having conversations with triggering people. The first one is accept. Accept that that's who they are. Accept that they're doing whatever they're doing right now, whether it's yelling, right? Aside from actual causing real physical harm, accept that they're having an emotional experience. Take a breath, right? That allows you to pause and just kind of get back into your body and create safety. And then the third thing is connect or redirect. Okay, so it's the ABCs: accept, breathe, connect, or redirect. So for example, a redirect might be like your boss is having an experience. They're kind of, you can just say, I can see this is not a good time. I'll come back later. Right? You can do this when you're in a meeting, right? Because you're setting a boundary saying like, it's not okay for you to yell and be in this energy around me. I'll go ahead and remove myself from the situation. And you have full right to do that. This is what I helped my client do until she finally ended up leaving that job. And she was still friends with her boss. She just needed to stop working with him, right? Because they couldn't work together. They didn't play well together. So those are the 3 types of boundaries. We have their 4 personality types: the red, the blue, the yellow, the white, and then we have the 3 types of boundaries. Now your takeaway today is simply reflection. That's it. Reflection. What do you think your personality is? What do you think this other person, just focus on one triggering relationship. What do you think their personality is? What is triggering about them? What parts of that are you responsible for? Okay. And I know that's already triggering when you hear that. But remember, our goal in this life is to get along and to be amicable with people who are different than us to an extent. Sometimes we have to say like, we're just not good vibes and we don't mesh, right? Like we're like oil and water and we're not meant to be in a relationship. That's totally fine. But for the most part, we are here to learn and grow and learn how to be in tolerance of one another. And we are also here to set boundaries because it is one of the kindest things we can do. So I want you to reflect on your personalities and then go through the 3 types of boundaries. Do an audit on all your relationships for the 3 types of all of them. Who do I enjoy spending time with? Who do I enjoy being physically near? Who do I not enjoy? What would be better? Do I need to only see them on big holidays? Do I need to tell them, hey, I'm not actually going to go on vacation with you this summer? And then thirdly, and most importantly, to have an energetic practice every single day. Before you go into work, before you go into the office, before you have a conversation with your mother-in-law, before your kids enter the room, you have an energetic hygiene practice that protects your energy, that fills you with love, that fills you with neutrality, that fills you with acceptance of people are different than me, that fills you with maybe a sense of apathy, or sometimes we need to actually do some disconnection where we're just observing in the moment, but we're not allowing ourselves to create a story around their behavior and what it means about us. So just journal and reflect on the 3 types of boundaries. Okay, so that is all I have for you today. I've given you so much in 2 days. And over the next course of about a week, you will receive more emails and more breakdowns on exactly what to do with all of this work, right? Because I love teaching, but my goal for you is always to implement, is always to transform and change your life and to change your relationships. The best way to do that, honestly, quite honestly, is to join Anxiety Detox, the program. Because if you got value out of this one today, this is what's inside of the program. You get immediate access to the entire course. Go to anxiety-detox.com. You're going to get coaching from me. You're going to get a community of other people pleasers who are learning to set boundaries. And you are going to be fully supported in a dynamic way that's so accessible to everyone. This is why I made this course. I wanted to give people the opportunity to work with me at a high level without having to pay that one-on-one coaching price. So I created a course just for you that you can access anytime. So head on over to anxiety-detox.com. And if you are on my email list, which you should be as part of this challenge, as part of this 2-day boundaries basic training, you're going to be getting emails anyway. If you're not already on my email list, you should be. Click the link below in the comments to make sure you are subscribed so that you are able to continue to get this information all about releasing anxiety, all about stopping being a people pleasing and stop worrying about what other people think of you. That is what I want for you, is inner peace and emotional freedom. If you have anything to say to me, if you want to let me know how this was, you can comment below, or you can head on over to Instagram or TikTok at Cami Kennedy and let me know. I will see you in the emails. Bye.